Hello viewers, welcome to our program on immigration and you. I am your immigration attorney Michael Fulwani, and once again we have with us attorney David Nachman.
Hi
David,
Michael,
welcome.
thanks so much for having me.
A very interesting program today. And the very interesting program today is that we were talking in the last program, you did mention something about various ombudsmen. Now, let me go back a little bit in a minute or two. The backgrounds, there was no such position of an ombudsman at all with the Immigration Service. For the first time during President Bush's period, I think it's one of our friends, Mr. What's the name? He was first appointed as the ombudsman of the Immigration Service by Prakash Khatri. Prakash Khatri was the first ombudsman which was approved by the Senate.
Right.
And after that, he did a good job coordinating between the attorneys, the questions from the public.
Well, the hardest job was trying to figure out what the heck the ombudsman does. Because
So,
he was the first one,
first
and
one,
it was
so
the first time the position ever existed in
It
the
was the
CIS.
beginning of that ombudsman period.
Exactly,
During
yeah.
which he did a good job, because I know that personally that he went out and visited various district director offices, want to find out what's happening, what's not happening.
Right.
He came with a lot of suggestions
Right.
about, and a lot of suggestions are implemented in terms of how the petition should be handled, the expediency, naturalization, and everything else. So he served his term almost, and then this idea came forward. Then other agencies that you just mentioned, CBP has now an ombudsman, the ICE has an
No, CBP not yet, but ICE
CBP
does.
has, no? CBP, when you
CBP
get a
has
problem,
a-
you go to ombudsman for resolution.
They have an ombudsman's
so, yeah,
office? I
yeah.
don't, okay.
Or maybe somebody in the global entry.
But I think what they're doing is they're moving in that direction.
That direction,
certainly,
almost
yeah.
like your USCIS has ombudsman, that
Yeah,
some
they're-
Qatari position, and then ICE has ombudsman, you said.
Yeah, that they did
So,
recently, yeah.
now, I want to talk about something that we'll push in the next
I
administration.
know where you're going with this.
Okay. Ombudsman for Department of State. When we say Department of State, we are talking about American consuls also.
Right.
Because right now, the law that says is that American consul has an absolute authority. He makes a decision, complete discretion.
Right.
In some categories, he has to explain also some reasons, small, under section such and briefly. And some categories, when especially like a 214B, denial is there, say, just deny it. I don't think you will come back. That's it. That's the only thing they say. You won't talk about that. People can say, what do you want? What shall I do? Reapply? You can reapply again. You can reapply again. You can reapply
Right.
again.
Right.
But I'm not saying that it's a lot of those cases where the consular officers are maybe denying and wrongly doing. I must say in favor of the consuls that they do a lot of hard work. And they deal with a lot of issues, security issues, homeland securities. They have
Of
got so
course.
many guardians and guidelines.
Of course.
They do. But nevertheless, there are some cases, whether it is a mistake or whatever reasons went through the mind of an officer at a particular time, when a good case is denied.
Right.
And then nothing much we can do. We keep on going back and get the denials and denials again and again.
Right.
Shouldn't there be some kind of program under which that decision can be reviewed by somebody in the Department of State or some ombudsman? For example, they have an ombudsman, and ombudsman will be very restrictive. Ombudsman is not going to open up every Pandora's box that everybody goes to ombudsman tell the consul issue the visa. That's not what I'm talking about. And neither that's going to happen also. It's not going to happen that. An ombudsman job is not to even order the immigration or the issue or consuls to issue the visa. Ombudsman is like a mediator in a way, you can say, where he takes that problematic issue to the Department of State,
Right.
saying that I believe that there must be some error, or maybe the person might not have been able to explain at the time of interview, whatever the reason it may be, and I want you to review this case again.
Right. Well-
And a good case, when it is reviewed, even the chief of the visa section will see that this really deserves it.
Well, here's the thing. The U.S. Department of State, just to play devil's advocate, the U.S. Department of State's argument would be, well, we have a form of ombudsman. It's called LegalNet. And if you want your case resolved, then send us an email. The problem, unfortunately, as you know with LegalNet,
Yes.
is it's like sending an email into a black hole, and you never hear from them again. And
they
then it's
never-
constantly following up.
David, they never ever get into the factual issues.
Right,
They,
it's only
they are very
legal
say,
issues
you
that
have a
they're
legal
dealing
issue,
with.
legal point,
Correct.
then you tell
That's
us. Otherwise, he is the officer on the line. We have
Right.
not seen the applicant. We have not interviewed them.
That's
Our
right.
officer is there, and this is what he is saying. So we
right.
believe him, we trust him, and that's something, nothing much we
right. Mm-hmm.
can do. Then what people do? What people do? They think they go to congressman. They are going to go to a senator.
who might be able to get them a result. But the
Correct.
problem is that's not the way. Yeah, it's
That's
not
not
the
going
way
to
it can
happen
work.
because
right.
even senator, congressman intervenes, sends a letter. Some cases of a nature where there has just been a delay or something, they'll pull the file out and complete it.
Exactly.
But mostly the 214B cases, they say, dear senator or dear congressman, we reviewed the case again and we believe that he doesn't qualify, and unfortunately then we cannot issue a visa. But if he has any further evidence or he wants to reapply, he most welcome
happy to bring him
reapply
back.
again. And if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. So I mean, very polite, very normal. And this person goes with a copy of that senator, congressman letter, I'm reapplying because congressman gave us. It doesn't work most of the time. Because the idea is somehow to get the officials look at the case again all over to see whether really this person deserves or not. Not just trying to maintain that denial, that's it, and that's the final last word.
I think that the value of the ombudsman is that what they're able to do is hone the issues and look across all of the consulates in the world and try to find places where the same problem exists,
Exactly.
and then to come up with some kind of a consistent way in which to deal with it. I mean, that's, I think, what we've seen out of the Ombudsman's office and the CIS is that they've been able to hone issues that are persistent and deal with them in a consistent manner. For example, the interpretation of specialized knowledge under L1B. Very, very difficult issue, and we have all these different interpretations from all over the place, and everyone has a different notion of what specialized knowledge is. And that, I think, is one of the big problems, and that the Ombudsman now has been able to kind of put their hands around that to say, okay, we need to come up with some way in which to deal with it. It's the same thing with EB1.
Correct.
EB1, extraordinary ability. What is the Kazarian standard? And that, of course, is what they tried to do, is they tried to give us, to hone in on what the Kazarian case said so that we can figure out what is an individual with extraordinary ability. So these are the types of things an ombudsman
with a
can
lot
help
we
us.
can talk about the kind of cases that were so deserving that I got a shock that how can this person can be denied, a big film actor working in a movie, a producer, once a director in a movie, or a person who was coming for donating a kidney to the uncle. Many, many situations I could talk about where we were able to resolve them. But it takes a lot of effort and only limited number of cases. But there are other cases like this which the people can go to the ombudsman and get assistance in getting a second look. That's all I'm saying. Not forcing them to give it. Look again. Look at what we are saying.
Exactly.
Look what we have. The first time they never even look at the papers. But at least let a senior officer look at my papers and then make a decision. I'll accept it. Something like that. Okay, let's move on to one different subject. A lot of people who apply for a non-immigrant temporary visa, like a visitor, student, something, and visas are denied on Section 214B. That's okay. But then sometimes the consul is satisfied, all the requirements are okay, but there is some other problem, like a crime, like a misrepresentation, like a fraud,
Right,
which under the law, they can refuse the visa. They are ineligible.
right. I think I know where you're going with this.
yeah,
You
correct.
want to talk a little bit to our
Waivers.
viewers about what are called non-immigrant waivers under Section 212AH3.
D3.
D3, correct.
So
yes.
that's what I'm saying, that just for the people, that if that is the situation, there's a provision in the law that you can apply for the waiver, temporary waiver, not a permanent. That will always be there.
Right.
But until the person is applying for a green card, then a different story. That waiver is different. When you're applying for a green card, is a permanent waiver. And you file a form I-601. In a non-immigrant waiver case, there's no form.
That's right.
It's just in a plain letter application to the consul. Consul, if he's satisfied, if he feels, recommending, he could recommend and send the papers to request to the office here, the review office here.
Review
In
officer,
US.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
And mostly, I say 90% of the time, if the council is recommending, they grant a waiver. The waiver can be for a short period of time, 1 year, sometimes 3 years, depending on the purpose for which the person is coming and all that.
Right.
So we have handled some non-immigrant visa cases also.
Well, and I think it's important to point out to our viewers that those waivers need to be renewed after they expire.
Exactly.
Because it's not that you just get the waiver and then all of a sudden, you have it forever. You actually have to